Hi there, I'm Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids. I'm a speech language pathologist, also called a speech therapist, with 20 years experience helping little kids learn to talk and helping their parents understand their little kids better. And today we got to talk about some big feelings because those little aliens living in your house can have some really, really, really big emotions. And those emotions can come out in a variety of different ways, notably tantrums. So if you haven't already, check out the video about tantrums. But also just kind of what might seem like weird or annoying or confusing behavior on the part of your child for some parents to understand. And so I want to kind of demystify some of these big feelings, and then I want to give you at least a few tips on how to handle the big feelings. And so here's the thing, right? Being human comes with some stuff, right? We experience things and then we have feelings or emotions related to our experiences. And so it can be something as simple as I turned the corner and a person was there, and that made me feel scared because it surprised me. By the same token, it can be I was running on the sidewalk and I fell down and hurt my knees, but really I didn't hurt myself so badly. I'm just kind of surprised to be here because that wasn't where I was intending to be, right? I was intending to run all the way to the corner, but I fell halfway down. Or it can be a really happy feeling where my favorite person just arrived and my only response is that I'm running in the opposite direction. And so these are like really typical responses that I see from many, many children, the ones I work with, but also just kids in the park and on the street. And it's a way of processing their big feelings because they're having this big surge of experience and emotion, and it can just result in some things that seem sort of confusing for parents. So I want to give you sort of a do's and don'ts list about how to handle your child's big feelings. Happy feelings are often, I think, perceived as easier to handle because everybody's way more comfortable with happy feelings. And so, but if your child is having big happy feelings and is like overly exuberant and using a super loud voice, and you're tempted to remind them to use their inside voice, you might want to decide before you say something, are they just experiencing a really big feeling? And if they're not doing anything super inappropriate, i.e. like ruining something for somebody, let them go. Let them have their feeling. Let them work it through. But the negative feelings are the ones that I really wanted to focus on today and really give you some strategies for, because I think those are the ones that we tend to downplay. We tend to not want to talk about or not know if we should. I think there's sometimes this feeling that if we pay attention to bad feelings or negative emotions, that they'll get bigger and worse, and nothing could be farther from the truth. We don't want to allow our kids to use their negative emotions as a crutch to like get things or to manipulate people, but we for sure want them experiencing those. So if your child falls down on the sidewalk, it's completely okay. And in fact, I would argue you really should say, wow, that was super scary for you. You were running and then you fell. Ah, that was really hard. Instead of what I've seen a lot of in my life is, yay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. Because we want them to be okay. Of course, there's an instinct to do that. And they will be okay. But first they need to process this big feeling. So, a couple of do's and don'ts. Try not to minimize the big feelings that your child is having. Acknowledge that they're there. And you can do this even with a 2-year-old. With a 2-year-old who's screaming at you because they're so mad that they can't have that cookie, you can say something like, oh, you are so mad. You really want that cookie. That does not mean you have to give it to them. You can acknowledge the feeling and not give them the cookie, right? The other one, so you can, and then you can just move through it. And at that point, you might be able to distract them. So acknowledge the feeling and then distract. That's for 2s. For older kids, you want to acknowledge the feeling, and then if they're calm, you can explain to them why it's not going to be the way they want it. But if they start to amp up, and again, if you haven't already listened to the tantrum video, remember, you can't talk in a crisis, right? Nobody's reasonable when they're like flipping out. So you may find it just a time to just ride it out and let that big feeling happen and just reflect back. Wow, you are so upset. You are so angry. You are so disappointed. You're so fill in the blank. Labeling the emotion helps your child through it. Because if we can't talk about it, it must be so horrible that we can't talk about it. That's kind of the message that we're giving our kids implicitly if we're not talking about things that are happening or feelings that they're feeling. And so talking them through that experience. I was reading something recently that basically refers to parents as emotion coaches. And I love this term because the coach is there to help you through and teach you how to manage a situation in a game or in life, right? And so if we can be our kids' emotion coaches and help them figure out how to process these big feelings that they're having, then we really do them a big service. So don't minimize, but then you can sort of process and then distract. Is going to be sort of your way, and then absolutely highlighting, accepting, tolerating, noticing, talking about even the bad stuff, the good stuff, but even the bad stuff. All right, that's all for now. Till next time. Bye-bye.